Okay, no music for this one because I'm gonna really need to buckle down in order to make sure that my points are delivered, quite frankly, as direct as possible in this video. So I want to start first of all by saying that this Genshin boycott is still the dumbest, most flakiest shit that I've seen in terms of boycotts in both gaming history and history in general. It doesn't help the fact that as soon as I finished watching the 5.0 Genshin livestream, I knew for a fact that there's still going to be a group of people that will be upset at the fact that there are some things that Natlan still hasn't seemed to change. Of course, I'm talking about the whole alleged cultural appropriation and all that stuff that they are doing because they're using certain cultures in Natlan and they are not properly representing it, in this case, in terms of skin color. What I think is particularly dumb about this whole thing is because they decided to try and boycott the game through expressing their discontent through Twitter and all that stuff and making sure that, hey, don't play this game. Don't spend on this game. We gotta hit them where it hurts. And to that, I kind of have to say, well, a boycott was never going to work in the first place. And that's mainly due to these particular reasons. Number one is the fact that Genshin, as the whole game and the team itself, is pretty used to having boycott being threatened when people are not getting the things that they want. So at this point, it's kind of just like a meaningless threat to them. And you can't blame them for looking at it that way because there's been so many times where the community would be like, we gotta boycott Genshin because they're not giving us this. We gotta boycott Genshin because they're messing up this. We gotta boycott Genshin because yada yada yada. And then those same people, those same either content creators or just players in general, just goes back to Genshin later on once the issue is pretty much kind of forgotten or ran its course of hype, you know? It's just kind of like that whole thing back then when people warned you about piracy, like, oh, you wouldn't download a car, oh, you wouldn't steal licenses from people, oh, you wouldn't steal music from music artists. But then you go ahead and download music from some sketchy sites or you even download a movie or two. And did anyone come to your place to enforce the consequences? Did you actually get charged or arrested for it? No. So it feels like for me, in like the Genshin devs perspective, it's kind of like, oh, these people, they say boycott so often, but then nothing ever really comes out of it. Do they really mean their stuff? Because at this point, it kind of doesn't look like they actually do mean their things, you know? And would I blame them for thinking that way? No, not really. And quite frankly, this is looking to be like an exact carbon copy of those events because there are so many people now even saying that, oh, we gotta boycott the game, but I'm still gonna play the game. And that's dumb because I can respect it if you're trying to complain about something and you actually stick 100% through to your will to complain about the thing. You say you boycott, then you completely cut off your access to the games or to the company, if you will, because apparently they're boycotting Hoyoverse instead of Genshin, so that's already weird for me because I'm going to explain that later. But if you actually do want to boycott something, then prove that you do want to boycott something, you know? A lot of the other, like, say some VAs are also complaining about it, but then they are still working for Hoyo. If you do want to mean it, then stop working with them. Refuse to work with them. That's one way to do it because they're going to need your resources to make their games, you know? So you gotta really hit them where it actually is meaningful instead of where it might have hurt, you know? And another big problem of why I think this boycott is again never gonna work is because of the lack of actual solidarity from people who are allegedly misrepresented from this entire thing. Because for a boycott to work, you need that entire sort of segment that is complaining, that segment of the player base that is discontent with that part of the game, to actually all band together and say to the company or to the developers and say, hey, we don't like this, you're messing this up. You need everyone to say that. But if you go into like all the forums, either both in Twitter, Reddit, HoYoLab, anywhere, you see these people, one, they're gonna complain about those cultural issues, and then there's gonna be other people from that culture who's also gonna be like, we don't really care, you know, as long as they get the food right, we don't really care. That's just something that I picked up from one of the conversations that I've seen. I'm not saying that's my reason, but quite frankly, when people see that from the outside, they're just gonna think, oh, it's not that serious of a movement when there's still splinters within the actual factions itself. Y'all need to band together and actually make sure that everyone shares this same opinion and spout it all out at once too, Hoyo. Not only to Twitter, because quite frankly, that's not effective at all. You gotta go through the internal stuff, surveys and all that stuff. That's where they actually be able to see and split out where, okay, are these complaints just people who are riding a hype wave of drama in Twitter, or are these complaints from people who are actually playing the game and actually think that, okay, these are changes that we're going to need to do? Because that's what they've been saying. The problem, because the whole issue of them trying to figure out which issues are actually main state and which issues are just people being picky, that's what took them so long to like weed out and actually begin implementing changes to these issues. Because the fact of the matter is, that's just gonna be how actual game feedback and player feedback is gonna work. They're gonna have to listen to the people who are actually constantly playing this game, the people who are actually constantly experiencing the game. And quite frankly, the majority of those people don't think that this whole Naklan cultural stuff is a big issue. Like, I don't really think that it's a big issue, and I'm kind of from a side of minority that doesn't get represented a lot in mainstream media in general. So quite frankly, it's just, I don't care, you know? Plus, another thing you have to consider is the fact that they probably have a huge backlog of things that they want to work on for Genshin, because like we've seen from 5.0 livestream, they're finally doing quality of lives. They're finally doing changes that are giving players better experience in terms of gameplay, because at the end of the day, this is a game. It's not some outlet to express cultural stuff or being woke or being whatever. It is a game. This is where you play, have fun, go look at cool game mechanics, look at cool stories, cool music, cool sequences, and that's it, you know? You don't really look further beyond that. It's not that deep at the end of the day. At least that's how it is for a lot of people who play this game. Now, I've mentioned the hypocrisy part of trying to boycott this game when you're still playing the game. Okay, you can say that to not spend on this game and all that stuff, but if you still play it, you're still contributing to their player base, you're still contributing to their numbers. So again, like I said, you want to boycott it, get off the game completely. Don't talk about it, don't play it, don't look at it, you know? Some people say delete it. Yeah, go delete it. If you do want to boycott it, delete it, you know? It's that simple for you. Just don't rag it onto other people who just genuinely want to play the game, you know? And that's also another thing. Trying to boycott a free-to-play game is so much harder than it is for you to try and boycott a retail priced game, because retail priced games, you have to buy the game. And that's really the source of income of where most developers will be making their money back towards. Except, say, like in cases like, say, GTA, because they make a lot of revenue from people buying the game, but they also make a lot of revenue from people buying the GTA Online money, which kind of stupid considering how easy it is to really earn it once you get going. But hey, what do I know, you know? But at the end of the day, it's a lot harder for you to just boycott a free game, because people are just gonna have access to it whenever and wherever, and it's no sacrifice for them to just download the game other than to spare some memory in your devices, you know? So they can just come back. And the fact of the matter is, in-app purchases are so powerful. Sure, you can look at the part of the player base that are like, okay, we're boycotting this game, we're never gonna play, we're not gonna give them money, we're not gonna try to put any in-app purchases in any way, we're not gonna promote it in any way, you know? Okay, here's the thing. For every 1,000 of you who are like trying to boycott the game, all of you can be outspended by one whale. Literally, it's that simple. You can all be outspended by one guy who's trying to get C6, R5 of certain characters, or even trying to C6, R5 anything in the game, you know? Because that's just how big it is, especially the main market, China, you know? There's a reason why back then, in terms of like monthly revenue numbers, they would put China and global regions separately, because there are many times where the Chinese region by itself will outspend the entirety of the global region itself. So quite frankly, the fact that they're not really upsetting their main moneymakers, from a business standpoint, they're just not gonna look at you, you know? So if you want, like, honestly, this is like such a out of my ass solution, but quite frankly, in a business standpoint, this is the most viable one, which is for you to just completely outspend the Chinese section and then push your message of Hoyo versus ass. Because quite frankly, unless you're really actually being the main bankroller of the game, they're not really gonna pay attention too much to what you have to say when it comes to things that, quite frankly, does not relate to gameplay itself, to the quality of the game as a game itself, you know? So that's really the biggest way. Outspend, pull all your messages out through all of Hoyo versus internal revenue and internal like sort of sections, and then that's how you're really gonna get listened to. Of course, that's never gonna happen. That's just never gonna happen because no one's gonna spend that much money just to like further push a boycott, you know? So you might not like it, but that's really the most sort of kind of logical monetary path to it if you want to really push your message to them. And at the end of the day, once again, I've mentioned it throughout this video a whole ton. You have to realize that you are in the minority. This whole people who want to boycott this stuff, you are in the minority. The rest of us just want to play a game. You think people are coming back now to Genshin just because, oh, they are finally making things so culturally correct? No. People are coming back to play because, oh, we're getting a free 5-star. Oh, there are actually artifact transmuter stuff now. We actually can get decent artifact experience. There's a lot of other quality of life changes. There's new endgame in Imaginarium Theater, you know? These are the things that are making people come back. Not because of the fact that they decided to shift the Blender color palette some gradient down a notch. No. It's because they're actually finally making improvements to the game as a game from a game standpoint, you know? That's where people are thinking, okay, we're finally going to be able to get some better experience in the game, okay? So you have to understand that, and you have to understand that there's just so many other things that Genshin will need to do that waiting for your request to be heard will take a while. We've asked for these quality of life changes for years, and it's now they've just been putting it into the game. So the fact that you expect big change in like 3-4 months or like whatever, it's realistically not going to happen. Unless, of course, you push it towards the Chinese because, oh my god, the Chinese player base, every time they say something, Hoyoverse will immediately, oop, we will listen to you. Oh, the Nouvelette's new thing is not working well for you? Okay, we'll revert that, and here, we give you 10 pulls for free. You know, the power of those guys, crap. But unfortunately, they are the ones who are in the complete opposite side of all of you who are trying to boycott these games because, quite frankly, they like that kind of wide appearance because in Asia and Southeast Asia in general, having fair skin is considered to be one of the more kind of attractive features of like characters in general. So what can you do? Honestly, the only thing I can say is that if you really have a problem with it, okay, stop playing Genshin and then make your own game. I don't know what else to say because it's gonna be hard to change it because you have to see where the company is from, the culture of the company, their main player base, their main source of income. They just have a completely different player base to satisfy, you know? They have a completely different market to prioritize. And realistically, like I said, it's either gonna take a really long time or it's just never gonna work, you know? And to really wrap this all up, I just really want to say it's not that I don't care, but I just think that this whole thing is being gone about in the completely different way and the completely wrong way, you know? There are plenty of other ways to make them listen because quite frankly, look, they're starting to listen. That's a good thing. But you have to realize that trying to boycott this thing is just, it will never work. Plus, you're boycotting Hoyoverse as in its entirety as a company. You have to realize that not the whole of Hoyoverse works on Genshin, okay? Genshin has its own team, Star Rail has its own team, Zenless Zone Zero has its own team. So you're really gonna disparage the other two games just because this one game is messing up in your eyes? No, it's not fair. So you really gotta put it towards the game and the devs of this game instead of really the entire company, okay? Because, like I said, it's not that I don't care. I wish you the best of luck if you really do think you have some things to complain about this game because, of course, one of these days, you ideally want every sort of issues to become ironed out, you know? To become addressed, to become properly having closure to. And I wish you the best of luck. I don't think anything is going to change anytime soon, like I said, but it doesn't stop me from saying, well, you know, maybe it will, okay? But again, there's just some things you have to both fix and realize. Fix is how you're going about doing your whole expressing of discontent. And then 2, realize that you are within the minority of this issue, okay? The rest of the player base will just not look at it that way. They just want to play a game. They just want to chill, play a game, play something that's actually gonna make them have fun, and that's it. They're not gonna care much more after that. Because at the end of the day, it is literally just a game. That's about all I have to say. Again, like I said, best of luck. If you have your own thoughts, you can leave them in the comments down below. If you like the video, like it. If you don't, then feel free to dislike anyways. And until the next video, my name's Leafy, and I'll see you all next time. Sayonara.